Hello! Today I want to talk about Broken April, a novel written by Ismail Kadare. Now, as you can imagine, I'm not an English native speaker, so I will try to do my best to be as clear as possible. Now, actually, in the past, I have already published 2 videos in English about this novel, and I have talked specifically in a video about the characters in the novel, but this video that I am recording now, it's a bit different from the other one, because in this video I will not spell Albanian words. That's to say, I will show you directly how they are written in Albanian, so I don't need to spell them. And obviously this method is more interesting, or to say it differently, it's less boring than the spelling method. That's what I think. Okay. And let me say this too, that in a video where I talked about the context of the novel, on that video I said that the Canon of GJORÄ was first published as a single book in 1931. Actually, it's not 1931, it's 1933. So I'm sorry for this mistake. Anyway, I have written a comment about this mistake on that video, and I have already clarified that it is not 1931, it's 1933. Okay, now let's begin and let's see the title of the novel. Now, the title can be understood at least in 2 ways. One, it can be understood as after the middle of April. Why? Because broken in Albanian is this word, and this word thyer means broken, but also means after the middle of something, and in this case after the middle of April. Why? Because in the novel, if you know it, it said that the protagonist loses his freedom on April 17th, that's to say, after the middle of April, because after April 17th, he has to go under house arrest for all his life, or otherwise he can be killed by the other family because of the vendetta custom, because of the blood revenge custom. Okay? The second meaning of the title can be this: his life is broken, his life is destroyed. Why? Because the word April can be related to the word life. Now, in order to understand it, we should remember that on winter, during winter, in Northern Albania, generally speaking, is too cold and nature is almost dead. And obviously on April is a kind of resurrection for nature. So it's a return to life on April. In this sense, April, life, so life is broken, his life is broken, broken April. And obviously his life, the life of the protagonist, is broken because he is a victim of the vendetta custom, of the blood revenge custom. And at the same time, we should remember that he is only 26 years old and he is not married, he has no children, and so on. All these facts emphasize the idea that his life is completely broken, totally broken. Okay, now let's see the protagonist itself, Gjorg Berisha. Now his first name, Gjorg, can be related to the word GJORØ. Now in Albanian, GJORØ means poor, miserable, especially in a spiritual sense. Why? Because, as I've said, he is a victim of the blood feud custom, blood revenge custom. With regard to his last name, Berisha, this last name is a Muslim last name. Now, I've said on the video where I've talked about the context of the novel that a part of the Albanian population is of Muslim religion and another part is of Christian religion. And the author in his novel uses some Muslim names and some Christian names in order to represent in his novel both communities. Okay, now let's continue. Anyway, if you want to know more about this, go and see the other video about the context of the novel. Now let's see the village. Now in the novel it said that the protagonist comes from this village, Brezvtod. Now, as far as I know, this village doesn't exist. That's to say, it was invented by the author. And vtod means cold. This word has different meanings. One is belly, cold. That's to say, if you feel cold around your belly, it means you feel bad, you don't feel well. And obviously the protagonist doesn't feel well because he has killed a person, and he too can be killed because of the blood revenge custom. Okay? Now, another meaning of the word brez is generation, brez. And that's to say, a group of people that lives in a specific time, in a period of time. For example, the generation of the 20s, the generation of the 50s, and so on. The generation called now, in this sense, the generation of those who are called toward life. Why? Well, because of honor, because of the vendetta custom, because of blood revenge custom, and so on. So in this sense, generation cold or belly cold. Okay, now let's see this one. Now he is killed by the protagonist in the novel, and this name is Zef. A Christian name means Joseph, so Joseph, as you can see, Muslim, Christian name, and so on. With regard to his last name, KRYE+QYQE. Now KRYE means head, but it also means leader. QYQE, this word, QYQE, means alone, solitude, abandoned, and so on. So it's a bit ironic and a bit realistic. That's to say, the leader of those who are abandoned, of those who are alone. And obviously he is alone, he is abandoned because he has been killed and he lies on the soil, on the floor. So he is dead, so he is the leader of those who are abandoned. Okay? Let's go on and let's see this one. Besjan Vorpsi. Now this word, Besjan, is the old, if you remember, is the writer who goes to visit Northern Albania with his wife. Okay, Besjan is related to the word Besa. Now Besa means a solemn promise, a sacred promise, as almost a sacred promise. It is an oral promise, and as I've said in the previous video, on the Society of Kanun, there were no written contracts, there were only oral contracts, so an oral promise was very important, and if you didn't respect an oral promise, you could have grave consequences. You could even be killed if you violated a promise, an oral promise. So the word besa is important. Now let's see this one, vorbsi. It's related to the word verb. Now verb in Albanian is a utensil to cook, an instrument to cook. And they cooked on the verb a lot of beans frequently. That's why in the novel the beans are mentioned, because as I said, they used to cook frequently beans. Okay, that's for this one. Now let's go on and let's see Diana Vorbsi, his wife, or Diana Vorbsi. Now, Diana or Diana, it's related to the ancient mythology, and it means the goddess of wild animals, but also the goddess of dead people. And actually both of these meanings can be related to the novel, because the context of the canon, is a wild context, as I said, because of honor, because of blood revenge, and so on. But also it's a context of dead people, because when a conflict begins, then that conflict could go on, because if you didn't find a solution, then the principle of revenge could lead from one killing to another killing, and so on. Okay, now let's go on and let's see this character, Mark u ka qira Mark. Mark, it's a Christian name, Mark. His last name, u ka qira. Now this word in Albanian, especially in Northern Albania, means uk, means wolf, the animal, wolf. This word, qira, means to cut your skin with your nails, and obviously if you cut your skin with your nails, you can see blood, you know, and in this sense, wolf, blood, that's to say, the wolf who is nourished by other people's blood, the wolf who sucks other people's blood. Why? Because you should know this, first of all, that women used to mourn somebody who was dead, used to mourn his death in this way, making this gesture, and sometimes you could see blood on their faces. So they mourn a person who is killed because of the blood revenge of the vendetta principle, and so on. Second, we should remember that in the novel, this character has as his duty to collect a tax for every person that has been killed because of the vendetta, because of the blood revenge. So, obviously, he is interested that conflicts of blood revenge go on. Because if a conflict between two families ends, this means that there will be no more killings. And if there will be no more killings, it means that he will not collect further taxes. You know? Because, as I said, he collects a tax for every person that has been killed because of the vendetta, of the blood feud revenge. Okay, now let's go on and let's see this one. Binak Alia. Now, this is a real figure, this is a historical figure. He lived in 19th century. He was born in Northern Albania, near Kosovo, but he lived in Kosovo during his life. And he was famous, among other things, because he was a good negotiator, a peace negotiator, and he managed to end some conflicts between different families. And, you know, he managed to end some blood revenge between different families. And in this way, I think the author wanted to honor his work as a good negotiator, as a negotiator of peace, as a peace negotiator. And furthermore, as I said, he lived in Kosovo, so in this way, the author wanted to represent the Albanians who live in Kosovo, also because of the fact that the canon was respected, as I have said in a previous video, in some areas of Kosovo too. Okay? With regard to his name, Binak, it can be related to the word Binjak. Binjak in Albanian means twin. Now, twin can be related to the protagonist and his victim, because both of them, the protagonist and his victim, actually both of them, in some sense, are victims of the blood revenge custom, of the vendetta custom, even though they are, as you know, members of two families that are in conflict between them. With regard to his last name, Aliyah, last name, means it's a Muslim name, so as you can see, some Muslim names and some Christian names in the novel with regard to the characters. Now, Orosh is a town in northern Albania. It's a real town. It was not invented by the author, and it's important in relation to the canon, to the area where the canon was respected, and where the canon was observed. Sometimes the author uses the word Orok. Orok actually doesn't exist, and he uses it in relation to Orosh. Orosh. Orok can be related to the word oracle, and in why we can say is related to the word oracle, Orosh, oracle. Well, because the world of canon is a kind of oracle, where you can predict that when a conflict between two families begins, then that conflict will continue, will go on, because of the vendetta, of the honor, blood revenge, and so on. So in this sense, is a place where you can predict the future, where you can foresee the future. Okay, now let's see the word Kola. Kola is a typical house in northern Albania, made of stones. It has small windows, and sometimes is made of 2 stories. And you know, it's like a small castle, if you want to say it in this way, in order to simplify the idea. Okay, and so I have finished. I want to thank you again for your attention, and goodbye.